more are joining. I think let's start, Kenneth.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another webinar by Taxmantra Global. This is Alok. I'm the managing partner at Taxmantra Global and Profit Board. I have got my partner from Singapore. He's part of the Taxmantra Task team. He's the managing partner for our Singapore operations. And today we will be discussing in detail in terms of why Singapore is so important in the current situation, more so during the pandemic. And in terms of why all the global businesses need to have their setup in Singapore. Singapore is poised and it's at a very interesting stage wherein it's one of the few neutral countries between the global trade war, between the global challenges, and it sits right in the center of the global financial hub. In fact, it's called the Silicon Valley of Southeast Asia, and with the ease of doing business, it's ranked 2 in terms of ease of doing business, and it's globally being regarded as the best place, one of the best place to start a business in terms of the ease of doing business, in terms of other processes, in terms of the laws, compliances, tax benefits, and such other reasons. So with this, I will start this webinar. And Kenneth, I request you if you can start your presentation. And yeah, please.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Kenneth. I'm back again live with Alok. So let's start off. Yeah. Can you guys see the screen?
Yeah, we can see the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. So practically, as we can see, we have this. Let me try this. I think. Yeah. Can you see my screen? Is it better?
Yeah. This is fine. Yeah.
Okay. So practically today our topic is a destination to Singapore. We're home to global business. So I believe we need little introduction about Singapore, but I think for the benefit of our new audience, we should actually do some slight introduction along the way in our this live webinar today. And so why is Singapore the hub for growing global businesses, and how is it evolving as the neutral hub? I think given the recent last 4 years with our US President, Mr. Donald Trump, probably keep on having declared a trade war with China. Basically, Singapore has to remain neutral between the 2 big economical giants, and even also probably with India catching up as the 3rd largest economical giant in the world. We have to be a neutral hub so that we can attract many businesses, and this is a good opportunity or a good platform for the world to trade. Practically, especially if you see the US-China trade war, a lot of Chinese companies has been actually leaving. A lot of foreign companies have been leaving China and probably heading to other countries. And Singapore is one of the beneficial countries. So many foreign entities has been trading in Singapore to taking advantage of the vast number of networks available in Singapore.
Yeah.
So till here, I think this is why Singapore has benefited greatly in terms of from the trade war. And even for Indian entities who are probably going to set up in Singapore, they can benefit through the many MNC companies in Singapore. And I will talk more about these benefits later on.
Yeah.
So as you can see over this slide, which has actually a lot of facts here. Singapore is not only just probably a neutral ground. Singapore is also international financial hub, which has a lot of MNC entities setting up base. Even global banks are setting up their redomiciling their HQ into Singapore, and even big MNC companies, big manufacturing plants like Dyson. And recently, we have even this Korean group, Hyundai. They are making, they're setting up their manufacturing plant in Singapore for some driverless cars in Singapore. And if you're talking about fundraising in Singapore, Singapore definitely is also probably known as a Silicon Valley of Southeast Asia, and maybe in future it'll be called a Silicon Valley of the East. Mainly because we have a very vibrant ecosystem where many venture capitalists are actually based in Singapore. And also that attracts many potential startups, be it from overseas, like such as from Hong Kong or even from India itself. I think many startups has been coming to Singapore just to be able to raise funds from Singapore as a base.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think Singapore is also world's sixth largest shipping center globally. I think that is also one of the main
Yes,
reasons why
correct.
many of the,
Basically, actually, we are. If you ask me, we are one of we are the top 3 busiest port in the world. It's either we are either coming first or second. The worst ranking probably we have over the last 20 years was probably dropping to a third position.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So on this, do you have any questions on the ground from till date
Okay,
till now?
okay, Kenneth, we so
Okay.
so so
So
so
yeah.
so what you're trying to tell, Kenneth, is that taking into so Singapore was always one of the preferred choice to start your business globally for global entrepreneurs, and post the pandemic and because of the trade war between India, between China and US, and also the enhancement in tension between India and China, Singapore seems to be the neutral ground wherein business can actually incorporate and do business globally. And Singapore is also and also the ease of doing business and other things which are there in Singapore also helps and also builds on that. So I think I think that's very interesting part, and I'm very sure that Singapore will soon become the Silicon Valley of East. It is already the top. I think it ranked at number 2 in terms of ease of doing business.
Yes,
So
correct.
yeah.
So with many statistics reports which we will share across later on so along this presentation.
Mhm.
Yeah, so as we have talked about why Singapore could be a hub for global business amid this trade war between US and China. Practically, we are neutral. Our government in Singapore, they have a very neutral diplomacy stance. That means they will not take sides, even for, let's say, for Taiwan. Although this is a very sensitive issue to the Chinese, but Singapore will always stand on a very neutral ground. I will not say declare that Taiwan is an independent sovereign or Taiwan is part of China. So practically is our foreign ministry is always will have a very diplomatic approach towards handling such sensitive issues. And besides this, talking about as a neutral hub, I think over the years we have seen many good live cases. Like example, we have seen the many first between like U.S. president meeting the North Korea North Korea chairman. So as you can see back in 2018, 2 years ago, we have this North Korea and US summit in Singapore, where President Trump and this Mr. Kim from North Korea has actually met up first time when both superpowers, nuclear superpowers, are meeting for the first time in history. So given that we have such a neutral advantage, so actually businessmen should feel that they are actually in a very good business environment with a very neutral ground. So we will not be like taking sides on, oh, because you're from US, you should be given advantage in the business transactions or business contracts. Practically is usually we have this policy of whoever can offer the best deal, whoever can offer the best solution, then you will be given the choice, be it whether you are from Singapore itself, or be it you're a foreigner, be it from UK or US, or your Indian nationality or Chinese nationality. We do not discriminate any nationality in Singapore.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, as you can see, actually, with the trade war, actually Singapore, as I have said, really benefited. Even big Chinese company like Tencent, Alibaba are actually increasing their presence. And recently, even TikTok also has reported investing billions of dollars and even creating more jobs. I believe that Indian startups should come to Singapore. Mainly is because I believe between the borders dispute between India and China, this has created quite a very sensitive issue if for any Indian startups to deal directly with Chinese entities. So if for Indian startups who wants to also benefit to doing business with Chinese entities, Singapore is the best place because you can probably set up a company in Singapore and probably be a service provider to these Chinese entities also in Singapore. So technically, you're not in violation of any national security laws or any national treason rules or regulations against you. So you should be feeling safe that you are actually trading in a very safe country. So Alok, anything from you?
No, I completely agree with you, Kneet, on this. And Singapore has preserved its democracy, and there is a lot of stability, not only the political stability, but also the financial stability we are talking about. And Singapore has demonstrated it for the last 50 years in terms of the financial
Yes, correct.
stability. So I think that really helps businesses, global businesses, to make Singapore as the preferred choice to start a business.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So I will
Okay.
move on to my next slides again. So what makes Singapore the preferred choice, as I have sum up here? Basically, a stable government, and most importantly, we have an extensive free trade agreement. These free trade agreements allows you to actually save up a lot of tax tariff whenever if you export your goods or services overseas. So be it let's say for importer exporters, basically with Singapore with the extensive free trade agreement, that can save you quite a lot. Even for services also, for IT services, if you should export your IT solutions, I think that is very, very, very helpful and needy to many of Indian startups who are setting up in Singapore. So I believe we have also quite a number of our Indian startups with Taxmantra. Practically in Singapore, they have already enjoyed quite a number of free trade agreements and in terms of tax savings. And obviously, definitely, we are highly regarded by the international at the international arena, where even IMF have praised us, and even World Bank has also praised us. And definitely, we are gateway to the rest of Asia. So I think even for like example, Dyson. Dyson is a UK household brand, but they have redomiciled their HQ into Singapore. So practically, this shows that how credible Singapore is. And in terms of intellectual properties, I believe in India there are many startups. So intellectual property is a very, very important thing to all the Indian technological startups. So whenever you build IT solutions or your IT network, you want to protect your intellectual property, and you do not want your competitors to copy your things and probably make it even cheaper than what you have already created so many days, so many months, or even so many years. So even we have one of the best intellectual property office in Singapore to help you to apply for your intellectual property protection. So rest assured that in Singapore, our IP protection is very, very strong, and
Yeah,
it's also highly regarded worldwide.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, definitely. Last but not least, obviously, we have a highly skilled local pool of talents, and not even that, we have a very highly skilled pool of foreign talents in Singapore. Practically, we have about almost close to 2 million foreigners working in Singapore, and probably more than 50% are expats from a number of countries, be it in the US, UK, or even from Indian nationalities also. So you can rest assured that Singapore is a multiracial country where you can get some access to highly local pool of talents. Yeah. So as a summary, as just for the benefit of doubt for the rest, Singapore at a glance, this is a summary. Basically, is our population is very small, way smaller than probably a city in India. Our population about standing at 5.5 million, and we are just probably from the east to the west of Singapore over here. It's just less than 1 hour of travel drive, which is I think way shorter than probably from the New Delhi airport to the Taj Mahal, which is probably 2-3 hours of drive. And as you can see, we are also a crossroad to many countries, which we can show you in our later slides.
yeah.
Yeah. So as we have already summarized a stable government, extensive free trade agreements. So actually, you should a lot of Indian startups should start taking advantage of all these benefits, as we have stated. And these are some of these examples. We have been highly regarded by all these international forums. And this is the World Economic Forum, which gives us the index for 2019 performance. Yeah, we are usually in the top 3 or in the top 10, depending on what kind of index being awarded to us. Yeah, and this is the one. This WIPO. WIPO is actually a global. It's a global organization which is meant to protect intellectual properties. So basically, besides Geneva, in Singapore, we also have this like a court like this. This mediation is a mediation court for any intellectual properties dispute. So practically, besides traveling to Geneva in Switzerland, Singapore is the next outside of Switzerland, where you can actually have your dispute in your intellectual properties rights to be settled. And I believe because if you were to settle this intellectual property rights in some other countries, the legal cost is very, very high. But in Singapore, we try to make our legal fees affordable too. So technically, that is why this intellectual property dispute office is also in Singapore too. And definitely, we are gateway to the rest of Asia. As you can see, our airports will actually bring up. We have more than 80 international airlines, and we are connected to more than 300 cities around the world. So technically, you can see big firms coming to Singapore, and also we have one of the busiest seaport and even the airport. So you can be rest assured that any part of the world you can be traveled. Even like there's a direct flight between Singapore and Kolkata, Singapore and Bangalore. So there are even more direct flights opening from Singapore to other Indian cities. So rest assured, Indian startups
Kenneth, I have a query for you. Earlier I used to travel very often to Singapore. When is your government opening the borders for us to fly again?
Okay, I could say our government is probably opening up in church. Obviously, they have to see the situation in each of the respective countries. For a start, we have already opened up our borders with between New Zealand and Vietnam. So we can see quite a number, a small flow of foreigners into Singapore recently, especially from Vietnam. I just shared an example. Like I have a customer who I met earlier this week. Practically, this client is from Vietnam. So he came to Singapore last week. I was quite surprised that he did not get quarantined for the mandatory 14 days. But he shared with me that he was only quarantined, directed to a quarantine center in Singapore in a hotel for only after he swabbed negative, he was sent to a quarantine hotel for 2 days only. After 2 days, he was released out, and he is happily roaming along our shopping belts in Singapore. So as for India, that depends depending on the negotiation between our Ministry of Foreign Affairs and also between the Indian Foreign Ministry on what kind of mutual understanding agreements. So it's at the government level. I can't really comment much, but then I only can hope so that we can start resuming flying between Singapore and India, hopefully by early next year.
Okay.
Yeah. I also hope to see you in Singapore soon, Alok.
Yeah.
So as I have so somehow that we have a very strong intellectual property protection and also access to highly skilled, not only local talent but foreign talents too. Yeah, as you can see over here, this is the statistics of the MNCs. We are not talking about startups, but these are MNCs entities in Singapore. Especially if you can see, there are many startups and foreign entities in Singapore. So practically easily we have I think over here about 30,000 foreign entities. And I think India and China are tied because these are the two most populous countries in the world, and followed by probably this G3. You can see is all the Western MNCs. So this includes from Europe and US entities. So I think if India is to stand alone, I think they are the joint winner with China. Although I think India and China are not having dispute, but it's good that if India and China can coexist peacefully, I think it's a good development, not only for respectively in India and China, but for the rest of Asia and even for Singapore also. So hopefully, fingers crossed, hopefully India and China can resolve the dispute as soon as possible, and so that there's more growth.
That's very correct.
Yeah. So okay, practically why Indian entrepreneurs are choosing Singapore for global expansion. In Singapore, we have a very, very simple process, and to incorporate an entity, I think it can be very, very fast if your documents are all ready and if you have cleared the compliance. I think between Taxmantra Task, I think our entities, we only incorporated in a record time of less than 1 hour. In 2017. Yeah. So I think that was quite a very good record with all the compliance, all the paperwork, all having settled and cleared. The incorporation process is within 1 hour. I understand that in certain countries, in other countries, any incorporation probably will take at least 3 months to even 6 months, depending on all the paperwork and everything. And I myself personally has experienced such a pain when incorporating an entity overseas. So it can be very, very tedious. And in Singapore, not only that, I understand that in India, in order to incorporate incorporated entity, you also need probably a PAN, personal code, a personal taxation number, right?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah.
Yes.
So practically to get a tax identification number in India, I think that itself the process take about 2-3 weeks. But in Singapore, maybe I can share something extra. Your tax, the company tax tax reference number is also the same as your company registration number when you're incorporation. So upon your incorporation, you're immediately given a tax identification number, which is the company registration number. So that is why we have simplified so many things, like such as the process of incorporation where the documents required is minimal, the tax compliance is very simplified, and practically is we do not need to have notarize the documents unless there's a special request, or even unless it's a special person, unless you're a politically exposed person. Maybe you are the son of a prime minister or son of a prince of some country. Yeah, if not, then usually no notary service is required. And for businesses, if you are running, let's say for an IT firm, yeah, a very minimal license is required, or even practically none, except incorporating the entity in Singapore with a incorporation license. And our incorporation process, I have said, the record with token is less than 1 hour. And best of all is in Singapore, we allow 100% foreign ownership in the businesses they are going to incorporate. Yeah. So to set up a business, so this is what I've okay, this is the requirement of setting up a company in Singapore. Basically, obviously, we need the minimum is 1 shareholder, and also a minimum of 1 local resident director. This local resident director has to be either a Singaporean or a Singapore permanent resident holder. So if let's say for foreigners, I understand the pain that you may not have any local friends in Singapore to assist you. No worries. At Taxmantra, we will definitely be able to provide you the local resident director services. And the requirement under the Companies Act is the company secretary is required also. And best of all, it's another one, which is $1 paid up capital. That's a minimum paid up capital in Singapore. Yeah. Obviously, additionally, local registered office address is compulsory. So practically most of the business activities are allowed, except maybe some sensitive industries which you may need approval, such as the military industry. But I think most of the Indian startups are usually technological companies and probably manufacturing firms. But so far, I don't think so. We have encountered any military companies. All right, Alok?
Yeah. Not yet.
Yeah. Well, okay, yeah, okay. In these instances where we have indicated both director and secretary cannot be same person, what we meant is that if in the event that this is more applicable in the local context, whereby if let's say today I'm the sole shareholder, I'm also the sole local director, I can't be acting as a company secretary. So this role has to be independent away from the company sole director. And practically in Singapore, our filing registration, we have two main bodies for two main bodies to be accounted for. One is which you see here is the ACRA, which stands for the Accounting Control and Regulatory Authority, which is responsible for all company and business registration in Singapore. So we will have to file AGM with this body, and on top of this, the next body is the tax, where I think every country needs to file taxes. So the tax authority in Singapore, so there are 2 bodies which we need to be account for. And technically, usually all these registrations, if all the compliance has been clear, everything, the incorporation can be usually done within 24 hours. Unless you're lucky enough, then you may meet with sometimes a lucky draw audit, then maybe you take extra longer, a few more days. Usually, so far, based on our experience, even if you get pick up for just a random audit, I think the delay is probably by 1 week. So hopefully we can get the incorporation done again. So usually once you clear the government audit, the random audit, I think 24 hours later you can get your company incorporated. So Alok, any questions?
No, I think, Kenneth, you rightly said that ease of doing business and the way Singapore's system has been made, it's very easy, and large economies like India needs to learn a lot in terms of the setting up processes and ease of doing business.
Right.
You are completely right that in Singapore you can actually set up a company in 1 day.
Yeah,
subject to that, you have all that information, and Singapore as a whole package, as a country, the financial hub, the ease of doing business, all those things really makes very interesting for global businesses to have their offices in Singapore.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So actually, to be honest, is be it whether you're a technology firm in India or you are a manufacturing plant in India, I think having a Singapore entity makes a lot of differences because if, for instance, if when let's say for technology firms, in future if you want to exit out of Singapore, I think you can actually have it's a good tax planning also, because when the moment you exit from Singapore and you sold off your exit your business out of Singapore, or even you sell off a business as a Singapore business, there's no capital gain tax, which we can talk about it later on our later slides. Or even for manufacturing firms, as I have mentioned in my earlier slides, we have a very extensive free trade agreements with many countries. So
Yeah.
let's say for manufacturing firms, probably they may have their goods manufactured in India, but if they have a company in Singapore and they trade using a Singapore entity, this may help them to get a reduced tax tariff or even practically zero tax tariff, depending on the items being traded with the other foreign countries. So that have the boils down to taking advantage of all these tax tariff to enjoy some tax reliefs or tax even zero taxes on the products to be exported to that foreign country you are dealing with. Yeah, so I will move on to my next slides. Yeah, so as we have seen, this is a table which compares between Singapore and India taxation. In Singapore-wise, our corporate taxes, we have for new startups, if you are individuals, practically you can enjoy full tax exemption for 3 years, but definitely it's on a revised tax rate. Or even after that, or even if you don't qualify for full tax exemption, you also get a partial tax exemption. So practically in Singapore, the government is very generous of giving tax breaks for new startups. And for especially I've talked about earlier that why technological firms need to set up in Singapore, because this is there's a concept where in Singapore there's no capital gain tax. So practically for technological firms, it's wise for them to actually park all their assets and even intellectual properties in Singapore, so that in the event that maybe after 3 to 5 years, where your company grows to a size where you can attract international acquisition, then that is where you can sell off your company stake, and you won't get tax on any capital gains. And currently we have a GST rate of a flat 7%. Obviously, we also have zero rated exemption, everything, which quite a bit technical, but we can also explore later on if there's any queries on this. And our corporate tax rate is a flat 17% after any tax exemption breaks. As for India, I will leave it to Alok to probably give a briefing.
Yeah, Kenny. So I think this is one of the main reasons why entrepreneurs do get attracted to Singapore. Not only startup founders, but also investors. One is in terms of corporate tax, wherein the corporate tax is Singapore corporate tax is one of the lowest on this planet. Then we talk about capital gain. There is no capital gain. So if there is no capital gain, there is no concept of share premium. And if there is no concept of share premium, the complications around the capital gain is not there in Singapore. And that this is one of the major reason why many times investors force startups to actually go and set up in Singapore the holding company. GST again 7%. In India we have highest GST rate is 28%, but the GST rate is one of the other reasons. So I think these are the 4-5 reasons why, from purely from a taxation perspective, why someone wants to go and set up in Singapore. Even the investors have this thing. So you rightly said, Kenneth. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so usually I believe many who wants to incorporate an entity in Singapore, they also probably want to find out how are they able to probably stay in Singapore on a long-term basis to run their business, and also to enter Singapore freely without constantly applying for a tourist visa or social visit visa. So in Singapore, usually we recommend for foreign entrepreneurs to take up an employment pass in Singapore, which is called EP in short. So practically, this is a pass where actually many startups entrepreneurs will apply with, and there is also several criteria to be met. And obviously, one of them is the education, the education requirement definitely is a very important thing. Maybe the bare minimum standards would be, I would say, a bachelor's degree or university education would be good enough. And definitely usually the work aspect, I mean the job title would be probably the founder of the entity or the company director. And there's a fixed minimum salary of 4,500 and above. But however, just a tip, if you are intending to bring a family to come to Singapore later on, I suggest that you pay yourself a higher salary of even 7,000 or more. Reason is because why you declare a higher personal income salary, why not a lower one? Because in Singapore, the government will see will based on a lot of factors. And by if you are bringing your wife, your spouse, or bring your kids along, so I think 7,000 would be a decent figure to probably feed a family in Singapore. So that is why I think for recommended pass registration, I would say that it's best that you maybe give a higher salary, although you pay a higher personal tax later on. But that actually enables you to actually facilitate your EP application and also your family's immigration process into Singapore.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on this.
Yeah. So as for the personal income tax, actually need not have to worry. Even for instance, I could say for a salary of, let's say you pay yourself a year $120,000 a year, total salary 120,000. Even after deduction of whatever, even if you do not have any personal relief deductions, you paid the flat, you being taxed at the flat 120,000. Your tax payable amount in the personal income tax level, I think it's less than $8,000 Singapore dollar, which is probably less than 10% of your total income. Let's say you earn $120,000 on a personal level. So the personal income tax rate is very, very low in Singapore, very bare minimum. I think probably it's only like 7% effectively for the first $120,000 of personal income tax.
Okay. Yeah.
So any questions on this? Or Alok, do you intend to also apply an EP also after hearing this?
No, I think Singapore is a great country to stay and move and build your career, and also to move your family. I mean, Singapore. So I was talking to someone and they said, "What was the difference between Singapore and other countries wherein people go and work?" I said, Singapore is a country wherein you can go and the people in Singapore actually regard you as their own, and you actually become a part of the society very, very easily.
Yes, correct.
So I think that's a very unique point for Singapore. And I've seen many friends who move to Singapore for job, and then they get employment pass, and then they get the PR, and they completely move there. So I think
Yes,
so. This is an interesting and very, very great opportunity for all of us. Yeah.
So next slides we are going to talk about is growing your business with intellectual property. So as I've already mentioned earlier, especially for technology firms and even for manufacturing firms, if today you have designed a product and you don't wish your competitor to copy your products, or even for IT firms, your IT software solutions. So I think it's best that you can actually protect your own ideas or your own products or even your own concepts with the intellectual property protection in Singapore. Especially in Singapore, you can actually apply intellectual property with our IPOS, Intellectual Property Office of Singapore, and you can actually have it such as trademark it across a number of certain years across over whichever jurisdiction you're intending to apply with. So I think most importantly, growing the IP is very important in Singapore, especially for technology firms and even for manufacturing firms I talk about. If you have your own well-designed products, which is very unique and can't be found elsewhere in the world. So it's best that you can actually patronize it or even have it protected, so that at least in the event of any disputes, you can have it settled in Singapore, and it can be settled very fast within probably less than a few months. Then you can have it resolved and you can continue growing your business.
Okay. No, I think IP is one of the critical things why someone wants to actually go and set up in Singapore. I think investors also want them to do that.
Yes, correct. Yeah, so some of this recently, I think over the last 12 months, or should I say over the last 10 months, our government has been very, very generous. Maybe it's due to the COVID situation, which actually wreaked a lot of havoc to many levels of societies. be it from the personal level to the business level or to the social level. So actually, we have a very, very generous government this year. In less than 5 months, our government has already announced 4 budgets, which is something very historical, first in Singapore, short 55 years of history, that within one budget calendar year, our government has announced 4 budgets. So maybe we will touch about it later on. Yeah. So this is what I'm talking about. Actually, this amount has increased already. We have 4 budgets, total close to about 100 billion, which is in USD about 70 billion. So technically, our government has been generous this year to help us to fight the COVID-19 issue and to ensure that jobs are protected, jobs are safe, and even businesses will not collapse. So during this COVID-19, actually our government has put in place some laws to protect businesses from going bust, and put in place of laws to ensure that if you're unable to pay your creditors, at least your creditors probably have to, it's not able to sue you for the next 6 to 9 months or so. So that depending the terms and conditions also. So this is how generous our government is. From the finance ministry to the law ministry, they work hand in hand to ensure that business won't get sued just because that you're unable to pay your debts. So that is why setting up a business in Singapore will probably give you some extra protection and leverage, so that at least you won't go bust in the event of probably another pandemic in the near future. So historically, we have set this as our benchmark, so that at least in future and this give many investors and foreign businesses more convincing reasons and more confidence to set up in Singapore.
Yeah.
So these are probably some key takeaway from one of our budgets, probably our second or third budget, the resilience budget. Practically, the government has been very generous in terms of easing the cash flow, like such as they have automatic deferment of income tax payments for companies for 3 months. And also there's even for compliance on company returns, the AGMs and annual returns, they have been deferred by 2 months or so. So this is why our government has been generous in terms of, in the past, we have this notorious nickname called Singapore is a fine city. A fine city doesn't mean that we are a normal fine city, but a fine city where the government will fine you for probably non-compliance. You have probably late for your filing, the government immediately fine you even if you're late for a day. So these days, our government ease up some of the rules to help businesses to tide through all these difficult periods. And for instance, if you are employing a local employees, be it your MNCs or what, the government will help to co-pay the wages for not only 9 months. For these 9 months has been extended to 17 months actually, in 5 payouts periods. So the government has actually been very generous, paying about 25 to 75% for the first $4,600 of money wages for every local Singapore employee. Yeah, so I think we are also in Singapore. The government has been very generous in offering cheap interest rate loans to SMEs. So if let's say Indian startups who wish to incorporate in Singapore, obviously this may not help them to access to cheap loans. But if let's say you are doing a joint venture or even a joint business, then yes, your local partners may be able to assist to get access to cheap loans, cheap interest rate loans also. So maybe it's time that Indian entrepreneurs should also start partnering with some Singapore entrepreneurs to form a joint corporate entity in Singapore. Then you can actually expand your business globally with Indian back-end operations.
Okay. So what you're saying is that joint ventures can actually get this loan.
Okay. The criteria is between 30 to 50% of the share structure must be owned by individuals of Singapore citizen or Singapore permanent resident. So
Okay.
Usually it's best that if you have a local shareholding structure, a mixture of a local shareholding with foreign one, then minimum is 30 to 50%, then that will more or less qualified access to a cheap interest rate loans.
So what are the other pointers or eligibility criteria. So one is shareholding. What are the other things?
Okay, the other things would be probably your local directorships. So if the majority of your boards are with, or even at least 30 to 50% of your majority is the board of directorship are Singaporeans or PR, then that will help also. But obviously, at the end of the day, the government will also have to look at your balance sheet and P&L to see your ability to whether are you able to repay back your loans if you're the borrower loans, because the government doesn't want to write off so many bad loans also.
Yeah, that is there. That is there. So,
Yeah,
okay. So this is very important. I mean, if you have a
yes,
joint
correct.
venture, and I think Singapore government has become has been always very proactive in terms of how they have handled pandemic. So all the
Yes.
credit should go to them, I think.
Actually for just maybe for our audience, if you are, let's say, in F&B technology, food and beverages technology, or even in some smart digital technology business, I think this is a very good time for you to set up in Singapore, because there are two main these are the two main broad categories which the government will be spending a lot of money in. So if you are able to tie up with a local Singapore entrepreneur to have a joint venture or incorporate a joint venture, I think this will help in many areas. Number one, I think especially for F&B, food and beverages technology, because our government wants to have a self-sustained food ecosystem. So maybe with through technology and through proper planning of food resources, actually this area is a very potential industry which the government will be pouring a lot of money in. So if any potential Indian entrepreneurs who has a base or who have a knowledge and experience in doing food planning, resources technology stuff, actually this industry you can actually attract into, you can actually explore into. The next one will be our smart digital technology, where our government has already been doing this project for quite a few years already. But however, if you have a better solution and technology in creating a smart digital technology nation for Singapore, then I think this is an area where actually Indian startups should also consider Singapore and explore this area with a local Singapore partner also.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we have seen, as Alok also has mentioned, the startup investment scene. So can Singapore become the Asian Silicon Valley?
It's already.
Basically,
It's
yeah.
already, Kenneth. It's already.
Yes, because we have attracted many big names coming to Singapore. Yeah, and other even other Asian countries like Korea and Japan, they are also moving their regional HQ into Singapore. And even Singapore in terms of manufacturing. I can say it's a very expensive place. But then because of the pool of talents available in Singapore, yeah, car manufacturers like Hyundai is setting up their base in Singapore. This is something which is where Singapore no longer actually manufacture cars already, since more than 40 years ago already. But then they are coming back to here to manufacture, but this time they manufacture something which is driverless car. So this is where I think Indian startups can complement the MNCs in Singapore, where because I think in terms of IT solutions, there's a great potential. In terms
Yeah.
of IT support infrastructure, there's a great potential for all these MNCs to do business MNCs. And moreover, you're not only servicing a Singapore entity. If let's say, for instance, if you manage to secure a contract with a MNC Singapore branch, Singapore company, and if you can do a good job, they may even recommend you to the HQ in their other presences, other offices in other countries. And this may be a potential business deal for you. So actually, Singapore is the best platform for you to grow a business globally. Yeah.
Completely agree with that. Yeah.
So this is a summary where we can see that we have easily more than 250 VC funds and more than 4,000 tech startups. So although it's a small amount as compared to let's say Indian startups or the amount of talents, but because we are just a very small country with only 5.5 million population, these statistics is if you convert to percentage, it can be quite substantial already. So I think given that a small city state country like Singapore are able to have such statistics figure is quite an achievement already, as you can see. So I think
So,
it's best that.
so bro,
Yeah.
in India, we have more than 460 VC funds, but you rightly said that Singapore is smaller than even a large city like in India. It's smaller than
Yes,
Mumbai.
correct.
So it's just very. I mean, it's incredible that Singapore, it's a city country, and a city country having 270 VC funds is just something which is mind blowing.
Yeah. And actually, to be honest, these VC funds, this number will start growing very soon, because actually there's something new, which is called VCC, Variable Capital Company, where the government has actually encouraged, has given a lot of has introduced a new program called VCC only this year in January, before the COVID. So I think the official effective date was 15 January this year, 2020. Where our government has launched a VCC, variable capital company structure, where to attract international funds to domicile in Singapore. So actually, and there will be a lot of tax breaks given to all these new structures. So there will be more funds readily available in Singapore. So actually, startups from India should actually start taking advantage of incorporating in Singapore and look into all these VC funds in Singapore. Actually, this figure probably has a really swell, because with the new introduction of a new variable capital company structure in Singapore, I think this number easily has already started growing more than to probably 400-500 already. So start taking advantage of the number of increasing of VCs in Singapore to tap into it.
Yeah, completely agree with that.
Yeah. So these are some of our, Singapore is home to some of these tech giants, as you can see. Yeah. So you can see for households like Samsung, obviously for IT software, the well-known IBM, Microsoft, everything. Yeah.
So I think Malay has a query. He raised his hand. Just so Malay, I allowed you to speak. You can speak, Malay.
Is there any funding options available for IT company? Let us say if you set up in Singapore.
Okay. If you are purely 100% foreign owned, then in terms of the funding grants from the government, I could say that I regret to say that sorry, we do not have. But however, you can still get yourself access to VCs in Singapore, because the VCs companies in Singapore has no limitation on whether you are a local Singaporean or whether you are a 100% foreign owned entity in Singapore. So still is obviously much better that if you incorporate in Singapore with a Singapore registered entity, is a much more like a form of protection for you and also for your VCs to invest in you. So definitely VCs won't look at the nationality. They are looking at your products or your solutions.
Sure, thanks. But and what about government grants? Suppose there is a joint venture with an Singaporean company and an Indian company. Then will the government look at it? Government of Singapore look at it positively and
okay.
have any grant?
If you have a joint venture between two companies, then usually the grants may not be applicable. But if you're talking about two individuals, let's say for you yourself as one individual from India, and let's say you joint venture with me as another individual. So if both of us comes together, you own, let's say 60%, I own 40%. If I hit the minimum criteria of 30% or maybe later on 50%, depending on the type of grants you're applying for. If I hit the government's requirement, I'm the new joint venture between you and me, for example, will be eligible for government grants. And let's say not only government grants, let's say even if we start, even for you, if you're 100% foreign owned, 100% owned by you as a foreigner, if you start employing local Singaporeans or PR holders, yes, government will also give you certain grants, certain rebates for the salary paid to your employees also.
All right. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah. So any more from the ground? Hello?
No, the second.
Any more?
So we can move ahead, bro. Kenneth, we can move ahead.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
As you can see, practically, these are our top 13 top funded startups in Singapore. As you can see, Grab is the most popular one in Singapore. You won't be seeing any. I think the competitor in India, the company which you book a car is called what in India? Alok? Uber. Yeah.
Yeah, Ola is there. Ola is there, which is a competitor to Uber.
Yes, correct. Grab has actually acquired Uber a few years ago, so that's why they are one of the biggest funding startups.
Yeah.
Yes, even there's a few more well-known brands like One Championship, which shows the MMA. Yeah, this is a big company, and Lazada, everything. These are all, and even Carousel, all this. These are actually gaining tractions in Singapore. And for instance, Property Guru, they almost monopolize the property scene in Singapore on the online platform. Not only in Singapore, probably even in Malaysia also. So this is a very good potential funded property platform.
So how many unicorns are there in Singapore at this point of time?
Wow, I need to really get the statistics done up first. I think quite a handful of unicorns in Singapore already. I think easily more than 10 or even 20 unicorns in Singapore. But I need to get the statistics.
Yeah.
So these are some of these major startups that exist in Singapore over the years. But this statistics is maybe I think that was this one was last year or the early of 2019 statistics. So this has been changed over the months.
Okay.
Yeah, and these are some of the Indian startups in Singapore which actually have also successfully start off. I think Flipkart everyone knows.
Yeah, Flipkart is a great success story, not only for India but Singapore also, because the holding company sits in Singapore.
However, I believe has the legal suit with the RBI settled with between Flipkart and RBI?
No, so the tax law, the issue is still going on in terms of how much tax they should pay to the Indian government.
Yeah.
So that
so
still
the
continues.
moral of this story, actually, from these live cases, it's best that actually from day one when you start your business, is very important where you domicile your headquarter in. If you domicile in Singapore, then at least you have lesser trouble when you decide to exit later on. But unlike in Flipkart, they probably based in India for a start. Then when they start growing traction and expand, then they start moving to Singapore. Then obviously you'll be in the radar of the tax authority in whichever country you are in. So it's best that from day one you must have a very good tax planner with you. So I think with Taxmantra, I think we were definitely able to advise them on a very good tax planning situation.
You rightly touched upon a very important point. So when you set up, you should be careful. So it's very easy to set up a company in Singapore. I mean, let's understand that fact. But how do you set up in terms of the structure, RBI, from the tax structure? It's very important. So because of that, when you go and set up, it's very important that you have the right consultant who would have knowledge of both from India and Singapore perspective, so that you get the right structure at that point of time itself and you don't face that problem later.
True. So I think more importantly is proper structuring is very important before you even incorporate anywhere in the world. So end of the day, I think it's best that tax practitioner like Alok and myself, we should actually be able to advise you that.
Yeah, very correct. And then we see this problem on a daily basis. I mean, because in India you not only need to see the income tax but also the corporate law, RBI. There are 10 laws, and you have to be careful that you are on the right side of each of the law when you actually go and register.
Yeah, correct. So actually, to be honest, as this slide has shown, why choose Taxmantra Global? Practically, we have probably sum up quite a number of these things more than this slide is able to present to you. I think all of the takeaway for many potential entrepreneurs or even for companies who has already been incorporated, be it in Singapore or in India. I think why do we have to choose Taxmantra Global is because of all this extensive advice and professionals we have on board. And definitely now with COVID-19 lockdown, uh, travel is being restricted, be it flying out of Singapore. So rest assured that we can play a fiduciary roles in your bank account opening and operations in Singapore also.
Yeah, yeah. And you very lightly said this, and it will be very interesting to for the world to know that even in the pandemic time, we have helped many businesses to set up company, and now we are
Yes,
taking this
correct.
pain on behalf of them to open the bank account, and some of the areas we also act as a fiduciary role. So we are always there for the clients, and we have been able to help them even in the pandemic. So Kineet is an expert on the laws in Singapore. So once you get in touch with our team, the Singapore and the Indian team, we since considering that our firms have the expertise from both the perspective, and we are very affordable from a fees perspective, and we know what we are doing. So that really helps, because once you raise capital, if you have registered company not in a right structure, you will not be able to raise capital later. So I think these are the things. So Kineet, I think do you have more slides, or
Again, sorry.
I'm saying that so this is the reason why someone would want to and register with us.
Yes, correct, correct. So I think practically over especially during the this pandemic situation, we have been actually contacting with the bankers very extensively and working with them closely to ensure that our clients, be it from local one or even from India startups, to have their bank account open smoothly without any hassle. So I think so far we have done up quite a few, not only a few, sorry, easily more than 10 cases over the last 2 months on a very successful bank account opening for our clients.
Yeah. So I think with this, these are our global offices. So thanks again, thanks everyone for taking out time, and thanks Kineet for having such a detailed
Yeah,
presentation and talking about overall in terms of Singapore, not only in terms of taxation, setting up, but also other areas. And I know, and we all know why Singapore is the number one choice for global businesses to go and register. So with this, I thank everyone for joining. We will again be sharing this video on YouTube. We are anyway live on YouTube. And today we had some glitch in terms of Facebook, but we will be sharing this video so that more and more audience can get the information, and we can help them to set up businesses in Singapore. Thanks, Kineet, again for your time, and
yeah.
thanks
Thanks,
everyone for
Alok.